Okay, hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining the VIMaec session. I've just got a question to the floor, I suppose, first. How many of you are architects here within the space? Okay, a few. Okay. How many of you heard of the term AEC or BIM or anything along those lines? Everyone. Okay, that makes it easier for me when I'm talking as well. Okay, so VIMaec, who are we? What do we do? We're a technology company, and we have a relationship and a partnership with Unity. My colleague here, Judah Jackson, is going to show you some technology in a moment that we've developed, and I'm also going to present to you and share with you some of the clients and the customers who are using Unity today, and how they're using Unity in regards to the developments that they're creating inside of their firms. So VIM basically stands for Visual Information Modeling, and VIMaec is the technology solution partner and also the licensing distribution partner for Unity. Okay, we manage and service the AEC industry in North America and in the UK. And what we do is that we look after your licensing requirements. We have a support team behind us who are dedicated and who are trained in the AEC market space. So if you're trying to get materials or data from Revit, Rhino, whatever it might be, and you're trying to bring it into Unity, we've got a support team and an infrastructure on our end that can help you, with getting that done. We're being trusted by Unity, and our partnership actually allows us to support and work with you on that level as well. We're also looking, helping you to find the right licensing solutions as well for your teams, because they might be distributed, they might be all over the place, so we're doing that as well. On top of that, we're focused on the AEC market. We realize, after talking to a number of different companies out there, that there are some heavy kind of hurdles that you have to jump across, and some fiery hoops that you have to go into before you do anything with your CAD data in Unity. And that means that trying to get any level of file integration, if you're trying to get client access, the client has to have a certain version of software as well with you so that they can see the right version of the updated model. It's costly. It could be poor collaboration. It could be a number of other things. But the biggest thing is interop. Okay, the interop of taking CAD data into Unity is still difficult. But what we've done at VIMaec is that we've understood that in talking to a number of different firms, small, large, and medium size, we've been able to work out some technology that you're going to see today that will enable you to take your Revit file with all the BIM data aggregated into a Unity viewer that we've developed. But also on top of that, you're going to be able to take that file directly into Unity as well. And it's going to be fully optimized with materials, light, shaders, everything else. Okay, and it's available today. So without further ado, and before I bore you to death, I'm going to hand over to Judah. And Judah's going to run you through a short demo. Number 2. No, here. There you go.
There we go. There I am. So it's my turn to bore you today. My name is Judah Jackson, and I'm a BIM VR application specialist with VIMaec. Most of you are unfamiliar with the process and the value proposition of VIMaec, so I thought I'd give you a quick overview of exactly what life is like when you're trying to communicate in the architectural industry. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, but you need that on because it doesn't record.
There we go. That's better. Okay, so I can hear my voice echoing off the back of the room now. All right. Now, for those of you who are architectural practitioners, and did this thing turn off? I'm not doing this deliberately, people. All right.
Put it in your pocket.
I put it in my pocket. That's what all right. So, all right. Okay. So what you're seeing is the interior of one of the most popular architectural design applications on the planet. This is Autodesk Revit. It's really the application that kind of created the paradigm shift from orthographic design to building information modeling, meaning that what you're seeing isn't just lines, arcs, and circles, but they're actually designing with intelligent objects. And although they interact with the building in a very traditional manner, this looks like a traditional floor plan. What the practitioners are actually doing is building a three-dimensional model that is seeded with data that assigns each element its appropriate type and characteristics as they design. But if you imagine that you're an owner and you're interacting with someone about this particular space, this building is the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math building that's going up at the Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches, Texas. When you get something from the people that are working for you, from your architects, oftentimes it looks like this. Now, the problem with this is a very ineffective way of communicating what is going on in a three-dimensional space. And that communications gap is part and parcel of a problem that costs billions of dollars annually in mistakes being made, simply because people cannot, from a 2D perspective, accurately project what's going on in three-dimensional space. Your average floor plan is only about what's happening from about 4.5 feet above the floor down. So while you can transmit some information that way, we needed a more practical means of communicating. Also, there's limitations regarding the platform that's being used. For practitioners who use Revit, as the building progresses further and further through stages of designs and gets closer to completion, more and more data is being aggregated into the project environment, which makes it very slow and cumbersome sometimes to use and almost impossible to share. And even if they were able to effectively share the Revit file, the odds that any owner or owner's rep is experienced enough with Revit to be able to accurately navigate it and see what's going on and harvest that information, well, that's definitely a long shot. So through our process, which involves basically the submitting of the Revit file to our portal, which converts the Revit file into what you see here. Now, this conversion happens in a matter of minutes. This actually took about 20 minutes. So what we're allowing architects to do is leverage the geometry that they're already creating to take a shortcut to VR, so that VR is part of their everyday workflow. So it's as easy for them to print something to VR as it is for them to use a laser printer or a plotter in their practice. Now, being able to explore this type of environment in first person, it's free roaming, and it reacts similarly to the way video games react. It's, for all practical purposes, this is a first-person shooter without the annoyances of chainsaws and gun blasts and explosions coming at you. Now, as you're going through this model, and this model is actual aggregated data from the architect, what you're looking for is things that look out of place inside a model. Those subtle things that come to your mind as you're walking through the model can save you thousands of dollars on the project. Like, what in the world is this sticking out here at about eye level going down the stairs? Well, this model actually combines the architectural with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing files, and allows us to see the data that's underneath this particular object, so that we can actually click on the object, there we go, and see that we've got an underground conduit that isn't exactly underground. So the problems that are inherent, or any problems inside the design, become very apparent when you're walking through them in three-dimensional space. We try to understand the needs of our community. Architects don't want to have another tool that they have to hire somebody to use. So VIMaec doesn't become anybody's job at an architectural firm. It is, for all practical purposes, a service, and it uses the data that architects use already. And they're able to not only generate a very nice model of that data that they can walk or fly through in first person and analyze along with their clients, they also can create logical tours using Post-it notes that take you to feature areas inside the model. This is the solar garden here at the STEM building. It's actually a model of the solar system that they have laid out here. And you can use these waypoints to do a guided tour of the entire facility. Now, you be the customer. If you were a client and you were having this building built, would you rather receive only this to understand your building, or would you rather have access to something like this, so that you can actually enjoy that architecture from the perspective of someone who's living or working inside that space? So then the value becomes pretty much evident. Giving clients a level of transparency and access to a process that they're paying for, making sure that buildings are designed that suit the client's specific needs the first time, without a lot of working around and definitely without a lot of changes being made after concrete has been poured and steel has been set. But that's only part of the equation. Not only does our portal allow us to go straight to with this type of viewer system, but it also helps out our clients who have Unity practitioners on staff, who prefer a more photorealistic quality to an experience, or perhaps want to design their own interactions, taking advantage of the vast array of assets that are available in Unity. Now, if you were tasked with taking this geometry from Revit into Unity, you would be looking at about a week's worth of work, moving over the geometry in FBX and assigning the appropriate materials. But what if I told you that in the same process that you initiated by hitting the submit button on your Revit model, that a powerful offline processor would be able to create a Unity package for you that not only exported your geometry, but also married it with the materials and the lights, allowing you to create a custom package that is then accessible in Unity. And that looks like this. So this actually was created in about 10 minutes. And let me turn on the lights here. Just add a directional light. And as you can see, we've got the materials, we have the lights, and this is actually the full model that you just got through seeing. I'll take you directly in through the side of the roof here so that the elements of the lobby become clearly visible. And so what we've done is solve the tedium of having to go through and by hand assign these materials, place textures, place lights. We actually go directly from Revit model to Unity package in a matter of minutes, and then use the import process to get the textures, meshes, and materials into the Unity environment, allowing the experienced artist to go through and take this data wherever they want to take it. So what we've done is designed a practical application for architects to use to migrate their data over into the gaming environment and into VR, a single-step process that allows them to move that data effectively without overtaxing their already busy design and work teams. And when you think about it, this is the beginning of the process, because architects deal with geometry and information, but there's a lot of other professionals out there that deal with three-dimensional geometry that has information underneath it as well. We believe that this type of process is the foundation to blowing the doors open to VR adoption by allowing everyone to have access to their information and geometry in the same time, using visual space, which is the easiest way to understand the data that we interact with every day. We've worked very hard in designing this, and we believe the future for this is really bright indeed, that we will be able to be a platform not only for the architectural industry, but also making VR more accessible for all the masses. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sanjay.
Do you want to just show some of the tools in regards to how they can, like, one of the challenges is that when you're talking to a client side or so, they're having to get third-party tools that they're not familiar with. What we've done here is that we have developed some tools that enable you to have that early discussion, removing, hiding objects, being able to displace objects as well within the space, within this world. So it's not just about it being a viewer. Actually, there are tools in here which actually allow you to integrate and also interact with certain objects, with all the objects actually within the space. So you can make transparent objects, you can make part of the building transparent, or you can make it invisible, depending on which section you may want to see or which area you'd like to focus within as well. And this is all fully automated, so no one's touched this. We don't have a bunch of guys in the back or people in the back of a warehouse, churning away this model. It's a fully automated process, so you can load your model up, and within a 20-30 minute time frame, depending on the size of the model, you're going to get a representative model like this out. Again, and it's going to be containing all your light information and texture maps and everything else as well. All good?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to switch computers again. I think this is the right button. So as you can see, the VIMaec tool set can be used for presentation purposes. It's a simulation tool. It's a design tool. It's all about articulating the design review and approvals. I come from the film industry and the games industry myself, and design review and approval is something that we constantly are doing. And it's something that doesn't happen too much in this industry or within the AEC space, but the tools that we're developing are going to enable that conversation regarding design review and approvals every day. It's a daily thing, right? It's not something you just do once a week or once a month. It's something we should be doing every day. Our workflow, which is what we're all about, we're all about workflow and pipeline development in that way, is all about that. It's all about being able to communicate more effectively, not just to teams internally, but externally as well. Because the thing is that the visual design and construction environment is really complex. Okay, it doesn't just involve one person in one office. All right, there's an element of BIM that comes into this, and as Judah elaborated during the demo, all of those objects are parametric objects that have come into our Unity viewer, as well as you're bringing them into Unity. All of those hold, a vast amount of data behind them. All that data, comes across in regards to how the building industry is using Revit, BIM, and how that all needs to be aggregated into a visualization piece that can be viewed in a virtual reality or an augmented reality world. So just as a use case, I want to show you and talk to you about a customer by the name of Global Sim. Okay, Global Sim is a sim company that develops training videos for how crane drivers and cranes should be, I suppose, used, and people to be trained out there on there. So they were using some proprietary software, but just over 18 months ago or so, they started using Unity. We've been helping with them. VIMaec and Unity have been working together in providing the right services to them, and what they've been able to do is create a cave-like environment so that it actually simulates the exact cabin of a crane itself. Now, this is in the build construction site. Every crane driver, pretty much has to go through this training process, and Global Sim has done this very effectively in using Unity as that engine, okay, to be able to produce some dynamic but very effective training that makes these crane drivers, very much, a safe crane driver. Now, this video, when I first looked at this, I was like, okay, what is this all about, and so forth, and I can't hit. This is probably one of the hardest things for a crane driver to do, and you've got to kind of situate yourself where you are positioned and where that ball is, okay? And, I looked at this a couple of times, and I was like, okay, but this is really important. Being able to manage that little ball as it goes into that barrel is one of the hardest things a crane driver needs to do. It's basically what they're being trained for, to be able to control that harness and that device down. Unity is basically that, and this has all been developed inside of Unity. Simple, but it's needed for the real world. Okay. Yet again, another case study is Mortensen Construction. I don't know if they're here, but there are a couple of guys from Mortensen, roaming the Unite workshops and everything else. We've been working again very closely with Mortensen, and I just want to show you some of the work that they've been doing. They actually have a team in-house now that are developing in Unity and developing some amazing work in what they've been doing. They're building everything from higher educations to institutions to stadiums to hospitality to a number of different areas. And they're using VR in a way to kind of show how spaces are being developed, how these spaces can look as they're being created. Also, enabling configuration setups as well. So as you can see here, you've got a small configuration setup, being able to bring in the customization element, which Unity is an amazing platform to use. They're devising all these areas for customization and for industrial use as well, as you can see. And all of these experiences that you're seeing right now are in VR, but they're also working towards AR developments as well, in a number of different ways. And the thing is with all of this is that this is their own core team in-house, developing a lot of the technology that you've just seen. So let's just take a quick look at some of the benefits of what we've been doing, in regards to VIMaec. We're trying to streamline and smooth out that whole development pipeline, okay, and the workflow that actually goes with that as well. Enabling you to very quickly and very smoothly take your CAD data, your Revit data into Unity, but also being able to have a very constructed application in the middle, which is our Unity viewer, enabling anybody within your firm to be able to use that as well. Okay, we're here to help you, and basically part of this comes down to us being a very focused partner for Unity. Okay, we're if you are in this industry or you're servicing this industry, I would love to talk to you at the end of this session, and we've got some time for question and answers in a moment. But we have a dedicated support team, so if you have any questions, we can help you on that side. We can help find the right solutions on the licensing side for you as well. But also, a lot of our team are from the AEC's community, but we've also got a mixture of gamers as well within there who have been using Unity for a while. So they know some best practices. They've been through the grind on being stuck where data hasn't come in, or how do they optimize that data to be more efficient inside of Unity and so forth. And we can help you with that. Okay, so there's a lot of ways that we can actually help you. We've got a few minutes right now. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer those.
So we just talked about exporting Revit models to Unity, right? Revit already does that through Revit Live and Live Editor, and then export it to Live, and then you can view using the Live viewer in Oculus and HTC.
Right.
So how is this different from the Revit Live?
Because Revit goes to Live,
Yeah.
it doesn't go to Unity.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right?
go to Unity, yes.
Right,
So,
so-
it's also serving the same purpose. That was my question, right?
Right,
It's a-
but the thing is that, so the thing is that, Live is this, it goes straight to Stingray,
Yeah.
but the thing is that people want to use Unity, so we're supporting the Unity workflow here,
Oh,
right? And also the other thing is that, as much as it's a great product and everything, we've had a lot of interest with the architecture, kind of industry itself and the AEC building industry, where they're actually, looking at Unity not just for VR work, for instance, right? It's also about the interactive developments that they want to do with configurations and, beyond VR development as well. So, as much as we have a viewer, and that's the other thing, right? So we don't just have the export. We take the export, and if you take it through FBX, you're going to lose all the metadata. You're going to lose all the textures and lighting and everything else. With ours, you don't. Okay, so with ours, you actually maintain all of that and aggregate all of that data together. And also, you also have the Vim viewer itself, which is something that everyone can use, whereby that's not something that Live offers as an intermediate that enables you to walk around or roam around a desktop world.
And one of the main things that you'll notice there are starting to pop up a lot of solutions that are BIM to VR, BIM to interactive or real time. One of the constant limitations that they have is the limitation in file size requirements. Autodesk Live, that particular product, its optimal file size is 400 megabytes or less. Now, if you're a practicing architect, your project's going to get to be over 400 megabytes pretty quickly, unless you're working on something very small. So what someone who wants to practice with Autodesk Live often has to do is cut a view down so that it's small enough to work in the process. We wanted to be able to support the entire process for the architect. So our models are typically in between 750 megabytes, 1.2 gigabytes, and we've done models in excess of 2 gigs as well. So it's a matter of what you want. They're both valuable solutions. Ours is kind of designed to support the architectural process in place without requiring a lot of extra work and busting up vignettes and things like that. So that's primarily what you're looking for. And some of those limitations are readily apparent if you actually use the Live system.
And we have to use the Live service, your Live service, to upload the Revit model into your.
Yeah, so we have our own SaaS solution behind that.
Is it a subscription based, or is it something like? Is it a subscription based?
It's a subscription based. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
And while we're doing our question and answer session, I'll show you guys the building that you saw in our solution, the latest drone footage, it's actually under construction. And
Sorry, go on.
right now.
Actually, I'm doing a lot of the same things. I'm realizing the cumbersome processes used to extract the metadata from Revit myself. So your software, is it an independent software that enters into the Revit model and then does the extraction, or does it do it through like add-ons through the
No,
Autodesk?
so we basically have our own cloud solution.
Okay.
And so you would subscribe to that, and then you can then have total access and be able to upload your files, be able to choose the outputs depending on what options you go for, and then it, on the other end, basically brings out for you a Unity package or a VR package, or depending on what you want.
So
And the heart of the engine is actually a plug-in that runs inside a version of Revit. We have a core of Revit that runs on our processing server, and it's a hybrid version of Revit's print call. It's really a print to VR. We've actually leveraged that to take advantage of the
so you
opportunity to
stripped
export
down
materials
all
in
the extra
geometry.
read-write
Yeah.
functionality and
That's it.
routed it right to the source of getting the conversion through.
Exactly.
Streamlined.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you.
So do the individual objects that you put into your Revit model come out into Unity as individual objects that
They
you can
do.
then add physics to?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And so all the meshes that are related to that object have been grouped and ordered, and the object even keeps the same object name and element ID code from Revit, which opens up a lot of opportunities when you're designing your own active functions within Unity.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're a distributed team, and one question I have is
You're a what, sorry?
a distributed team, geographically
Okay,
distributed.
yeah.
So the workflow is such that for internet transport, over the cloud of the materials, okay once, but maybe not wanting to do that every time the Revit model would be revised upstream.
No.
And my question is, does the person exporting from Revit, I know in Unity, if you're exporting a Unity package, I know how to exclude things I don't want to import. Upstream, though, does the Revit person have the option of saying, I just want to reference the names of materials that I've already previously exported, and this time I want to make a Unity package that that includes references to the materials, but doesn't actually include the textures?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, or the first part of that question, yes. So if you load your Revit file up, and then basically what happens then is that when you reload that file with updated scenery or whatever it might be, you're only going to process what's been updated. Okay. You're not going to reprocess the whole model again. So for instance, in the model that you've just seen, you know what, there were some changes that were made. Initially, I think it took about 25, 30 minutes. The second time around, because the changes were small, it took like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, put that conduit underground.
You got it, right? All of those kind of things, okay? But that varies between file to file, okay? We don't have a pulse that says, oh, it's going to be exactly this, because we don't know, because the file changes significantly between what's being loaded and...
Yeah, and in particular, in our case, the upstream materials are generally placeholders
Right.
with fairly low-res textures, and then when I import things into Unity, I'm putting 4K substance textures in there. So
Yeah.
there would be no, the actual textures themselves coming from upstream are just to show me approximately what it's supposed to
Sure.
look like.
Yeah, making it a lot easier to target. Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys mainly have been focused on the Revit side of stuff, but a lot of I guess the EPCs that come to us, they usually deliver like an FBX out of Navisworks,
Okay.
and that's usually a bigger pain in the butt than
So-
than Revit. Have you guys tackled that at all?
Yeah, so basically our roadmap actually right now is primarily, a fair amount of Revit, okay? But we're basically looking at SketchUp, Rhino, Navisworks, and so forth to support the whole system.
Okay.
And that whole, kind of gamut of architectural tools that are used. And it's, you mentioned a nice one, right? Navisworks, it's one that's used by a lot of GCs and construction companies. So yeah, that's one that we are, tackling in the background a little bit. It's just
the
not
biggest
ready yet.
pain that I've seen. So
It's there's a big black box in that one,
yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
You can get models from anywhere, right? It can
Yeah.
From anything. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
One other question, have you considered offering this type of tool for 3D Studio Max as opposed to Revit from the upstream point for situations where, like a lot of the work we're doing, we're not at a pre-construction phase yet. We're at a concept phase, but would still like to be able to do the 3D renders. We can do, with FBX export or OBJ export, we can do a scene level export right now, but honestly, that process is a bit bumpy if you try
Right.
to do it directly between the two tools, and you guys might be able to smooth out some of those bumps.
We have
Yeah,
talked about that actually.
And,
Go ahead.
really, the architecture of the program includes our proprietary Vim file format, which marries the geometry to the data that's underneath it. And the exporter tool that we use to get the geometry and data out of Revit the same system can be very easily applied to a wide variety of applications that author in 3D. Yep. So we're targeting a complete suite of Autodesk products for future development, and I mean future isn't within months, but we're looking at broader applications as well.
Yep. Thank you. Any more questions? Right. If you are interested or keen, I'd love to talk to you further. So either come and see us at our booth, or we're going to be here for a minute or two. So yeah, thank you again.